tell and roadie. Go tell and roadie. Go tell and roadie that everybody's.
Capcom, you're doing better, but not enough to get off my sin list just yet. That being said, I have no shame in admitting when I'm wrong. I thought this game was going to be a bigger abomination than William Birkin's Final Form, and it turned out to be the best Resident Evil game I've played in a very long time. So I'll go ahead and take off a sin.
I gotta get back to work. I love you, Ethan.
The main character in this game is named Ethan, and all I can think of is Ethan Mars from Heavy Rain, and his continuing search for Jason! This whole opening turns out to be a segment that takes place near the end of the game, with Mia sending a warning message to Ethan. I'm just confused as to why the game is trying to make us think that Ethan is watching this, when those are clearly feminine hands.
All I can say is that if you get this, stay away.
If you really wanted Ethan to stay away, why did you bother recording this message for him in the first place? Also, stay away? You do realize you're on a moving ship while recording this message, right? By the time you get done and send it to Ethan, he's not going to know your exact location. Speaking of which, I don't know how Mia expected this video message to reach Ethan without blowing her cover. You know, since she's a covert operative for the connections that we later find out about. Message in a bottle ideas don't exactly work when you have electronics involved. So we have a guy searching for his supposedly dead wife in a creepy estate filled with puzzles and monsters. You might think that I just described the plot of this game. I actually described the combined plots of Silent Hill 2 and the first Resident Evil game. I guess it's true that given enough time, you can rehash anything and people would neither notice nor care.
It's Mia. She's not dead, she's alive. She's back.
They found her? How?
This guy that Ethan is talking to will never be mentioned again. Ethan won't even call him for assistance when he's in danger.
Maybe it's a prank. She wants me to come and get her.
Yeah, because when I think of pranks, I think about my wife disappearing and faking her death for 3 years. It's like putting a dead person in my thumbnail and then claiming my video to be about mental health awareness.
Where is she?
Dulvey, Louisiana.
Seeing as how this game takes place in Louisiana, I'm extremely disappointed that Capcom didn't take the opportunity to make a perfect pun by naming this game Resident Evil 7 Biohazard. You wouldn't be able to stop me from laughing my head off if that were the case. You know, a long time ago in my Resident Evil 6 video, I said that if you're going to have the camera this close to the player character, you might as well make it a first-person shooter. I didn't think that Capcom would take my advice so literally. Apparently, I need to make my sarcasm a lot more obvious. What's this? An opening sequence where I walk through a spooky brown forest? Suddenly, I'm playing Resident Evil 4. Unfortunately, I don't suck off that game like a lot of people do, so you're not getting any props. Alas, we come to the most difficult adversary that a Resident Evil protagonist can face. Gated areas, even if it is possible for them to overcome. Damn, even signs like to play the pronoun game. Jack pulls the old vanishing trick that occurs far too often in horror stories. You know that gif of Grandpa Simpson where he walks into the burlesque shop, sees Bart, and then immediately turns around and walks out? That's what any sane person would be doing right about now. This narrow hallway only makes me salty that we'll never get to play PT ever again. Game absolutely refuses to let you play any Beethoven. VHS. That was probably one of the most pathetic jump scares I've ever seen. Why the hell would anybody be in the ghost hunting business in the world of Resident Evil? As outlandish as the science has always been, it's still a series based on science, not anything supernatural.
Hey, I only work with professionals.
You're in the ghost hunting business, so you're not exactly the sharpest knife in the drawer. Finding a professional should be the least of your worries.
Make sure the sound is right this time. I don't want a repeat of Amarillo.
You're recording on VHS. Your quality is going to be piss poor regardless of what microphone you use. Speaking of piss poor quality, VHS tapes do not record and display in 1080p widescreen. I am very curious as to how this guy is able to hold a camera with his hands free like this. GoPros usually don't come in VHS format.
I was an anchor, you know?
Weekend sub, Pete. Not anchor.
What's that?
There is no way you didn't hear what Andre just said when he's standing right behind you.
Andre! Clancy, you see where Andre went?
Well, it's not a horror game unless some moron is splitting from the group.
I mean, producers, they come and go, but a good cameraman like you, Clancy?
Weren't you the one who criticized Clancy the moment he turned on his camera?
Where did you find this guy? This new guy? I'm not feeling it.
The Bakers must be masters at stealth, because they somehow managed to capture Andre and drag him through this hidden door into their boiler room without Clancy and Pete knowing about it. The Blair Witch fake-out. VHS tapes have had a long-standing history of malfunctioning whenever danger arises. This is precisely why they eventually became obsolete. Ethan apparently sounds injured when he falls off the ladder, yet later on he'll get his hand sawed off and barely have any reaction. You know what? I think it's time to bring back the Mario death transition for every single one of these jump scares, because there's just enough to add into the video without the need of a bonus round. Ah, so this is where Jared Fogle kept all his kids locked up.
Mia?
Yeah, that's not really the kind of reaction I would expect from somebody whose wife has been missing for 3 years and went through all of this trouble searching for her. Evelyn's gift is remarkable in the fact that it practically halts the aging process. Mia looks exactly the same as she did 3 years ago.
You shouldn't be here.
What do you mean? You contacted me.
No, I wouldn't. Did I?
Amnesia continues to be one of the most banal methods of storytelling in video games.
Did anyone see you? Did he see you?
Mia is apparently fond of the pronoun game.
Daddy's coming. We need to go.
You know, if after 3 years your supposedly dead wife calls anybody but you daddy, you should probably reconsider your decision to rescue her and bail immediately. That's what happens when you don't use enough Maybelline. Also, if the whole idea is for Evelyn to expand her family, why does she influence Mia to kill Ethan? I mean, yeah, it makes sense from a game perspective because we're playing as Ethan, but it doesn't make sense from a story perspective.
I can feel her clawing her way back inside of me.
There is some disturbing sexual innuendo there that I'd rather not hear. Well, fellas, if she tries to kill you, when all else fails, just teabag your wife. I hear it's great therapy to balance out your marriage. Hello everybody, my name is Ethan Winters. I've traveled all this way to find my supposedly dead wife who's been missing for 3 years and is now possessed, and I just took an axe to her neck. And I don't feel any sort of emotion. I'm starting to question my own humanity and why I bothered to rescue her in the first place.
Welcome to Xbox customer support. Para obtener soporte en español, presione.
Mia tries to pull the same trick as Jack, although it doesn't really work because Ethan has already fought her and now knows what she's capable of.
Ethan?
Must contain outbreak.
Mia performs the classic villain cliche of letting the protagonist live instead of taking the perfect opportunity to kill them, thus allowing them the chance to bounce back and save the day. Resident Evil continues its mannequin fetish. Game, this is not how axes work.
Welcome to the family, son.
Sure, welcome to the family, after we've lured you here and tried to kill you. Well, I guess you can't do Southern horror without a hick family being cannibals, even if they are possessed. Hey, don't look at me. I don't write the rules. The Bakers would be great in a Star Wars film.
God damn it.
Saving the hero in the nick of time cliche.
I bet it's that cop again.
Wait, again? So these phones can send and receive calls outside of the Baker estate. Yet Ethan does not do the smart thing, like call his buddy from earlier, or the BSAA. That becomes even dumber when you find a newspaper stating where Pete, Clancy, and Andre went missing. Clancy, Pete, and Andre seem to be very popular people on the internet, so their sudden disappearance would raise more than a little suspicion. Dumb limitations are also one of the great enemies of Resident Evil protagonists.
You did good, Ethan.
Zoe, right?
I kind of have to wonder, how is Zoe able to guide Ethan if she's under the influence of Evelyn, and she got infected around the same time as the rest of her family? The only reason why Mia had any sort of cognitive ability is because Evelyn favored her, and that certainly doesn't apply to Zoe. Cop shows up at a suspicious house by himself at night.
You're not listening to me. There are crazy people in this house trying to fucking kill me.
Well, all right. Let me tell you this. You don't exactly seem like you playing with a full deck yourself, all right?
He has a formerly severed hand and chainsaw wounds in the same location where 3 people disappeared. I think that would add some validity to your missing persons report.
Like I said, we've had several missing persons calls. And I can't rule out that an outsider like yourself may not be involved.
The fuck?
Hey, we gotta get the fuck out of here.
Now, first, you need to tell me what you're doing out here alone in the middle of the night.
Me? What about you?
No, it's my job. Won't you do your job and tell me? Answer my questions.
What the hell is this dialogue?
Put that door back up. Wait!
It's the South. This is to be expected. I would love to know how Jack is able to put the car in reverse without touching the gear shift. He's got one hand on the steering wheel and the other forcing Ethan to press the gas. If you want a hint that Ethan is already infected and under the influence of Evelyn, he takes a metal pillar directly to the forehead, same as Jack, and yet he turns out to be okay. This game's going to try to pull an M. Night Shyamalan plot twist that's going to be more disappointing than Wesker's death.
There's something I need you to do, but I can't explain it right now.
Zoe has the perfect opportunity to explain crucial details, yet doesn't do so, because the plot doesn't demand it yet. A locked door with a Cerberus symbol. You're not fooling me, game. I know the rule of 3 cliche when I spot it. Well, what do we have here? Turns out Alyssa Ashcroft actually survived Raccoon City. This all but confirms that Resident Evil Outbreak is canon. I thought people completely forgot about that game. It was certainly ahead of its time, and I'm glad it got acknowledged. Boy, Mia does sure rely on the low probability of Ethan not only finding the Baker's estate, but surviving the Baker's attack and finding these videotapes so that he could see her warning message. It's almost as if she knows she's in a video game. Mia tries to surpass Casey Neistat for most compelling vlogs on YouTube. Her desperation is apparent.
You've been a bad girl!
The ability to fail a flashback recording. So what, we have sorcery now in Resident Evil? This is a series defined by puzzles based on advanced engineering, not voodoo magic.
Where do you think you're going?
I don't know why the game thought it could get away with this jump scare when Marguerite warned Mia not 10 seconds ago.
There's no way out of there, Missy! Ethan, please help me! Ethan, help me! No!
Wait, who turned off the camera? Because if it's no one, then that's some remarkable timing for the battery to go out. I just noticed that this estate has a grandma's room, yet the old lady we see throughout the game is actually Evelyn, rapidly aged. And there's no grandma present in any of the Baker family photos you come across. Game, I get what you're trying to do here, making Jack an indestructible badass, but you're never going to be able to top Nemesis. Many have attempted, all have failed. Nice try though. The fake-ass narrow crevice loading screen. Capcom, it's been over 10 years now. Stop trying to replicate RE4's success with these dollar store regenerators, who just so happen to be the only enemy you encounter in this game besides the boss battles. Finally, a Resident Evil game that knows how to make a proper Evil Dead reference. After all these years, they finally gave me what I've always wanted in a Resident Evil game, a sick-ass chainsaw duel. If we keep this up, maybe we'll be able to control our own mutated creations and have them fight inside Hell in a Cell. This serpent door is right next to the morgue after you get done with your boss fight with Jack. However, you won't get the serpent key until much later in the game, and this door doesn't lead to anywhere special. It just loops back to the beginning of the processing area. I cannot believe this game actually has a shop system, and yet they didn't bring back the merchant. Just imagine opening Zoe's trailer for the first time and the merchant pops up and is like,
"Welcome, stranger."
I would have taken off 10 sins for that. But once again, Capcom misses out on a perfect opportunity. There are exceptions to every rule.
My family and our bodies are contaminated. I can't leave the property unless I get it out. And the same goes for Mia.
Is there a way to get it out?
We need the serum. It should clear whatever this stuff is out of the body.
How does Zoe know how to synthesize a serum if she doesn't even know what she's curing?
We need the serum. It should clear whatever this stuff is out of the body. As long as you're not too far gone.
This too far gone status that Zoe talks about is extremely vague. Later on, you'll be able to seemingly kill Marguerite but cure Mia, even though Mia got infected before Marguerite and has been exposed to the fungus for much longer. Also, it's not a good Resident Evil game unless there's an insect boss we need to fight.
Stay the fuck out!
A flamethrower that doesn't kill insect swarms? Marguerite has terrible peripheral vision. The animation of these centipedes.
I told you to stay out of here!
Oh, so now Marguerite can be burned, even though earlier it seemed like she was unaffected by fire.
I just got done dealing with your mom and her fucking bugs. Wish you could have warned me.
She kind of did.
I just hope you can handle my mother.
Your mother?
Be careful. They'll be looking for you. What about the serum?
I haven't found any. But I did find out we need to make one. A D-series head and an arm. This can't be right.
You are correct, Ethan. Zoe already knew what she needed in order to make the serum, but she decided to be vague up until this point because the plot and game demand it. This is one of the dumbest locking mechanisms I've ever seen. You could put anything on there with equal weight to the lantern, or even try to balance it out with your own hand. This old house courtyard looks like it came straight out of the Resident Evil 1 remake.
Here I come!
I'm sure glad that Marguerite is dumb enough to let me know that she's attacking, even though she got the jump on me. Marguerite is basically Alexia 2.0. Wasp crotch. Ladies and gentlemen, AAA Gaming.
Did you find it?
Yeah, I got it. Are we really gonna be able to make serum with this thing?
You know, Ethan does kind of have a point. We know that the D-types were former bioweapons just like Evelyn, but the game never really explains how they act as a serum to the newly developed E-series.
Hey, buddy! I thought you should know.
Hey, I was told I was gonna get head from Zoe. The promises this game makes.
Now, if you want the head, feel free to come by any time and I'll give it to you. But only if you participate in a little activity I've put together just for you.
So we went from fighting Jack, a nemesis type, to fighting Marguerite, Alexia 2.0, and now we're stuck with the origami killer. This game certainly blew its load way too early. Who needs guns when you can defeat the molded with their greatest enemy? Doors. I understand the reference this game is making with the Trevor and Chamberlain construction, but the Bakers renovated their house in 1992. George Trevor, the architect this company is named after, died in 1967, and I doubt that Umbrella during this time period would risk exposing themselves by contracting out under a similar name. This all but confirms that the use of VHS tapes in this game is complete bollocks, because there's no way Clancy is holding this camera with his hands clearly tied. There's no way you could have made a grenade out of a balloon, since the nails and pin would have pierced it long before you would have inflated it to a certain point. Nobody will be surprised that the cake is a lie. Man, that is some Nick Cage level of screaming. Clancy sounds like he's being transformed into Ghost Rider. These VHS tapes also have the capability of fading to black whenever the cameraman dies. Lucas is likely talking to a hallucination of Evelyn off screen. Later on, Lucas is given a serum by the connections that allows him to keep the regenerative abilities he gained from Evelyn, yet prevent him from being possessed by her, even though mind control is the whole point of Evelyn's genetic modification. So why did the connections waste the serum on a clinical psychopath who's not even qualified in the field of biochemistry?
You'll make that serum? Ooh, baby. You're gonna have to come through me.
Why doesn't Lucas just destroy the D-Series head once he's got it? He knows what it's being used for, yet still decides to lead Ethan on a wild goose chase. So, are these walls fireproof? Because I don't see how they look so brand new after they were set ablaze when Clancy died in here.
Motherfucker! You're supposed to die!
Well then, perhaps you shouldn't have left that happy birthday tape in the same attic as one of the key cards. You can't really be upset if someone defeats your game when you leave them a cheat. And a ticking time bomb to give them a chance to escape. Lucas leaves behind the D-Series head. You know, the one item he needs to prevent Ethan from making the serum. Zoe creates the serum in a damn NutriBullet. The serum has two different colors, even though they're both from the same D-Series. Well, it's not a Resident Evil game unless there's a goofy generic monster with obvious weak spots.
Use the serum on him!
The serum should only be able to kill the host if they were too far gone, which Jack certainly was. Yet for some reason, Jack is still alive in the End of Zoe DLC, even though he got injected with the serum here. This is why I'm so glad I waited until all the DLC was released before I made this video.
There's only one left. There can't just be one left.
Come on now, Mia. You already know that Zoe only made two, and that Ethan already used one on Jack. Pointless morality choice. That becomes even dumber when you find out there's actually a bad ending if you chose to save Zoe. Yet later on, you'll find out that Mia was working for an international crime syndicate and was responsible for transporting a BOW that ended up infecting the crew of the ship that crashed, which is the whole reason why the Bakers got infected in the first place, yet still refused to tell Ethan the truth, even though he had already arrived, thus it was pointless to keep holding secrets from him. But herp derp, we gotta roleplay as Ethan if we want to get the good ending.
My place is here. With her.
Don't be ridiculous.
You forget. I still have a job to do.
You mean the job you kept secret and could have potentially caused an outbreak?
That. There's the boat that Mia came with Evelyn on.
Zoe, that is a ship, not a boat.
Evie! Please!
Zoe?
Evie!
Zoe? Zoe!
That was the game basically saying to you, what's that? You didn't choose the option we expected you to make? Fuck you, Zoe's dead. At least until the DLC where we actually show you the canon ending. That doesn't change the fact that this game pulled a telltale on us. Also, this all but confirms how vague this too far gone status really is. It seems to depend on how much of a person's body is mold rather than how long they've been infected. But if that's the case, how did Zoe calcify when she clearly hadn't mutated? For some reason, now we're playing as Mia, even though we left her at the dock and there was no other boat present. This is further proof that the morality choice was stupid and pointless. How did Ethan end up here inside the ship when he's surrounded by nothing but ship wreckage? That is some quality level design you got there. Discount Ouroboros. This is now the 6th Resident Evil game that has some sort of ship level. At this point, ship environments have become more oversaturated than Raccoon City itself.
Are you remembering?
What? What are you?
She is bootleg Alma Wade, and that becomes even less surprising when you find out that the narrative consultant for this game also worked on the Fear games.
I'm still in a dream.
There is no way this ship has any power after it's been wrecked for 3 years. That is a plot convenience if I ever saw one.
Watch it.
What? Why?
You need to remember, so we can be a family.
And you had 3 years to show Mia this tape, yet only now decided to do so. Because game progression, boy. The VHS recordings reach a whole new level of ridiculousness by having Mia document her and Alan being attacked by mold monsters, which would most certainly incriminate herself and be used as evidence against the connection should this tape ever be found.
She must have infected me during the attack.
It is baffling that the connections gave orders for Alan and Mia to transport Evelyn to a secret branch, yet didn't give them a serum to prevent infection should a situation like this arise.
How's it going?
She's vomiting. Far more in excess of her body mass.
Okay, sure. Don't provide any context in that sentence. Bah, what am I talking about? This is a Resident Evil game. Context is irrelevant. The machine gun continues to be one of the worst weapons in Resident Evil. Mia is capable of using a remote bomb without a detonator.
How did you get here?
Where's Evie?
Notice how Alan suspiciously avoids answering that question. I'm guessing he possesses the power ring of teleportation. It ends where it began cliche, except for the fact that Mia doesn't watch the video she recorded for Ethan, and instead goes straight to recording the warning message.
Stay away. Forget that you ever knew me.
Weird how in this context Mia seems to be in her right state of mind, yet she doesn't actually send Ethan the message here. She only sends a different message to lure him under the influence of Evelyn. In the beginning of the game, this sequence was completely silent. Now, at the same moment, there's an alarm going off in the background. Wait, is this still from the perspective of the camera that's been recording this whole time? Because if so, how the hell did it survive being dropped into the ocean?
Can we be a family like before?
No, Evie. We were never a family. We will never be a family.
Then I don't need you anymore.
That was easy.
Honestly, this jump scare is adorable. It's like a little brat trying desperately to be spooky, and you just can't help but giggle. It's so heartwarming that I momentarily forgot what a piece of shit she was.
Maybe it still works.
What's sinful is that she's correct. It does still work, even though it clearly shouldn't, since the ship has been wrecked for 3 years now. For us classic Resident Evil fans, these are the only fixed camera angles we're ever gonna see again. Game, I think you need to ease up on the hallucination jump scares. This kindergarten level puzzle.
Hey, shh. I know. I'm not gonna hurt you.
Okay, game. So, Ethan, Jack, and Zoe are all infected with Evelyn's mold, and they're able to have this conversation thanks to a shared consciousness due to the hive mind concept. All but confirming that Jack and Zoe are still alive. Fine. You mind explaining to me what was the whole point of trying to cure them with a D-series serum if it wasn't going to be a permanent fix?
I'm no killer, son. Neither is Marguerite. No, my boy Lucas.
Yeah, I'm going to have to disagree with you about Lucas there, Jack. Lucas was a psychopath even before he got infected, and he remained a psychopath even after he took the serum from the connections.
So she infects you and then she takes control?
No. Not exactly, son. She forces her way into your mind, your soul. You can't fight back.
Except when it comes to Ethan, Mia, and Zoe. Ethan I can understand because he's in an early stage of infection while Evelyn is in a deteriorated state. Mia I can also understand because influencing her is against Evelyn's protocol, but Evelyn is already in a mentally unstable condition. But Zoe? How the hell is Zoe able to fight back?
Ethan, free my family.
But Marguerite is already dead. Lucas is beyond saving, and Zoe's going to be rescued by your brother who we don't even know exists until after this game ends.
However, we did find several encrypted messages from the baker's son Lucas to an unknown third party. You can probably guess who that was.
That's just great.
We've had reports he's in the abandoned mine south of the property. I'm gonna go have a look.
The recap radio would like to conveniently inform you about the location of Lucas so that we could put an end to this hillbilly hoedown. Somehow you're able to obtain all of Mia's items, even though she died back at the tanker and didn't give you her backpack. But that's always been the power of item box technology. Even in a Resident Evil game, the Mass Effect elevator decides to make an appearance. Just in case you weren't able to figure it out yourself, here are some encrypted messages that basically reveal the old lady you've been seeing throughout the game is actually Evelyn rapidly aged. I knew there was a reason why you weren't able to shoot her, because then it would end the game early. Wow, I never thought I would ever see HCF mentioned again. That was Wesker's task force in Code Veronica, and they finally made their way back into the plot, even if it was a little haphazardly. Not a sin, just a pleasant observation. Wait a minute, why did Lucas allow a lab to be set up here with a device to create the necrotoxin? Especially when Mia had a tissue sample of Evelyn this entire time. He already said before that he doesn't want to go back to the way things were.
Those are stupid bitch. She doesn't understand that I don't want to go back to how things were before my father found y'all.
And if Ethan ever made enough necrotoxin, found Lucas and injected him, it would most certainly kill him, since he's infected with the E-series. But that doesn't really matter anyway, since he's gonna be dead by the end of the Not a Hero DLC. Still a sin though. Hey there, Resident Evil game that started off with an excellent creepy atmosphere. You have now resorted into a brainless shooting gallery, which, to be fair, doesn't make you any different from most Resident Evil games, but still a sin. Game gives you a mind map after you've reached the end of the mine. What the hell was the purpose of these dolls? Really crappy foreshadowing? Because that's the only thing I can think of. Flashback within a hallucination cliche. I knew that sin was going to be included at some point. That scream. This is literally Birkin at the end of RE2. And now it's turned into the final form of Ouroboros. Mean, would have made more sense if you shot him, since you have the perfect advantage. But whatever. The final weapon we get to use in this game is not a rocket launcher, railgun, or satellite laser.
I'm Redfield.
Yes, people, that is the real Chris Redfield. I'm actually kind of glad that he looks more like his Code Veronica appearance. Hey, if that means we're going to completely disregard Resident Evil 5 and 6, then I'm supporting this character model change 100%. But that doesn't mean I'm going to ignore the fact that this is a shoehorned cameo for a DLC that quite frankly should have been part of the main game to begin with, which is precisely why it's free.
They say that when one door closes, another opens. And the only other door I can see is closed.
Actually, no, Ethan. That door is still open. But this isn't the canon ending, so here's a middle finger to you. Riding off into the sunrise cliche. Capcom, it has been over 20 years now. Pick a different ending for these games.
Happy birthday!